So welcome back. This is our second video where we actually demonstrate our audit strategy of automating the monitoring and enforcement of the USB security policy that we had put in place previously. But before we jump in, just like to take a minute to recognize the great work our systems analysts at LSS have done, Andy, Pascal, and Jason. They actually came up with the idea for this platform during a brainstorming session and actually came up with the raw systems architecture that what you'll see today. So with that, let's jump in. Again, we talked about this in the previous video. If you haven't looked at it, please go back and take a look. It provides all the information and background responses to the RFI that you've put on the street. But essentially what we're doing is when we initially built the security policy for appropriate use of USB devices at Accuexchange, we put that in place. That included the creation of a couple of controls. One set of controls was administrative controls, and the other one was physical controls. But now that we have that in place, we need to take the next step and actually come up with an audit strategy. And our suggestion or our thought is to automate that process by implementing a technical control that revolves around the software demo that you're about to see. As you know, we talked about this in a previous video. The software itself comes in three flavors: a basic USB monitoring, an advanced USB monitoring version, and something called the Advanced Plus monitoring service. And that involves our managed service offering, security service offering, that's based in the cloud, based on our security operations center. We're not going to go into that at all. And in fact, what we're going to show is really just the advanced USB monitoring piece. But just to recount, BASIC is a lightweight independent agent, operating system independent. It's called USB Sniffer. It runs at root level. You need administrative access to turn it off or turn it on. It boots with the system, so users can't manipulate it. And basically what it does is when the system boots up, it installs itself as a service. It chains itself to the keyboard and the monitor, and just monitors the activities of the USB bus. Somebody plugs a USB, if it detects somebody plugging in a device into the USB socket, it immediately locks the keyboard and issues a violation message. The next version of that is called Advanced, and that's what we'll see in this demo. And that does the exact same thing. BASIC is still used. The USB sniffer still runs. But now, when an event occurs, it sends an event notification to a central USB monitor running somewhere in Accuexchange facilities. That includes a whole bunch of information, including just a raw dump of everything that was on that USB, that it found on that USB drive. Once that information pops up, what we can do is then collect that, put that on an audit log, and then we have the ability to ship that to any organization that we want. So just a precaution before we start this demo, the USB sniffer is the heart of the system. It's what sits at root level and does the shutdown of the device. Now that can be misused and literally be used as malware. So to prevent that, we went out of our way to cripple the code. So throughout this demo, no root level access is used. Every sniffer, USB sniffer that's going to run on the devices that we'll show you has been specifically tailored to run only on that device. So if they run anywhere else or if they're moved anywhere else, the system will crash or will not work. We also removed as much as we could in terms of error correction and recovery routines. And the rationale for that was, if this was misused and escaped into the wild, we don't want a robust and stable, basically malware, being loose and out there. So with that in mind, let's jump in. So we'd like you to keep this in mind. This is one of the USB sticks that we're going to insert into a machine. It has 5 files and 6 directories. So again, just keep that in the back of your mind. So the demo will work like this. The USB monitor is actually running off of my Surface notebook, and we've taken 3 PCs. My wife and daughter's PC. My wife's PC is logged in as user Terry, and then my daughter's PC is logged in as Jennifer. And then we have a third Ubuntu LTS 1404 PC running our audit server software. We're pretending that that is the Accuexchange auditing internal audit server, and then we're pretending that Terry and Jennifer are the traders, the Accuexchange traders. So what we're going to do is we've also, on 3 of the devices, we've also brought up WebEx sessions, and in order to allow us to share the screens so that you can see what's going on. So the way the demo will work is we'll go to Jennifer's device. She's got the USB sniffer running already. We'll plug in a USB stick, not to see what goes on there. She's not running the WebEx session, but we'll do that to see what comes up, what pops up on the USB monitor. Then we'll go over to Terry's machine. We'll plug in, we'll start up USB sniffer. We'll plug in a stick, a USB stick, and we'll watch what happens to her machine. And we'll come back here. We'll look at what pops up on the monitor. And then we'll spend a minute or 2 talking about the log itself, what gets generated from that. And we'll finish with a transfer of the log to the Accuexchange server. So with that, they say the best way to get started is to jump in. So let's just jump in. So let's start our demo. So again, we're running advanced. This is the advanced version of the software, which includes the basic USB sniffer. Now, advanced has no sophisticated features. It's there only to ensure that the policy is enforced, monitored, and we can monitor and enforce the policy. The more advanced features come with the version called Advanced Plus. So I'm going to log in as the office admin. And you'll notice we did the right thing in obfuscating the password, but we actually did a little security flaw here. We actually reflected the number of characters that were typed in instead of randomizing this and giving some unknowable number. Now we know that the password, if someone's looking over our shoulder, the password is only 8 characters long. But let's start the system. So this is the monitor itself. We need to give it a port, 52,000. And what that does is it literally glues itself or locks itself into the network adapter, sits on this port. It spins up a thread, a listen thread, and sucks in or hoovers in anything that's running on that port and then displays it. So with that, let's go to Jennifer's machine and run that version. So you're not going to be able to see what goes on, but if you listen, you'll hear me plugging in the USB. The USB gets plugged on, and there you go. What we do is we don't want USB sniffer, which is running in background on Jennifer's machine, sucking up all the resources. So what we do is USB sniffer comes up, scans the resources, and then shuts down or goes to sleep for a period of time. And we've done, through testing, we've proven that there's no way you can pull information off a USB in the time that it's asleep. So here's the information that comes in. You can see the person that was logged in was Jennifer. Here's the timestamp that we generate. Here's the operating system that they were running, the IP address, the peer port number, and the MAC address that they were using. The reason we use this is, as you know, IP addresses can be spoofed pretty easily. MAC addresses can also be spoofed, but together they give somewhat of a better correlation of who was on the device. And then the dump of actually what was on the USB drive at the time, and it found 26 files. And these are both files and directories. So now let's go to Terry's machine and see if we can crash that. And again, what we'll do is we'll share her screen. Let's bring that up. There you go. All right, so USB sniffer is not running, and as you can see, we are, just to show you, there's nothing up our sleeves. There's nothing plugged in. So let's start our demo here. So now USB sniffer is running, and let's plug it in and see what happens. So again, it takes a minute, but as you can see, what pops up is the lockout. And as you can hear, keyboard is completely locked. I can't do a Control-Alt-Delete. So I am hosed. Now, for the purpose of this demo, we added this get out of jail free card, this button. But again, USB sniffer running in background, the user is locked out until a manager or security can come and find out, determine what went on. So let's just shut this down. So that's Jennifer's. So let's do this. Let's stop sharing her screen. Let's go back and look at what the violation report that showed up on USB sniffer, or the USB monitor, I'm sorry. So here's Jennifer. Here was our first event. And here's Terry. Here's her sign-in. She was signed on as Terry. Here's her timestamp. Here's the operating system, the address information, and then here's the contents. And if you recall, it found 16 files. But that USB, again, if you recall, we asked you to keep this in mind, is really these files. That's the USB that we plugged into Terry's machine. And there were supposed to be only 11. Here's what it found, directories and files. But USB monitor is saying that there are 16 out there. So what's up with that? Well, USB sniffer, actually, when it scans a drive, it pulls everything out on that drive, even hidden files. So what it found was 5 hidden files, including this old disk check file that was just sitting out there. So it's from that perspective, it's actually better than an audit. It's also an audit enforcement and monitoring tool. It's also a way of validating USBs, and even though you wouldn't use it with Advanced, our Advanced Plus version of the software has a mode where it will go in and be a USB verifier. So let's finish up with the USB server. I'm going to share my screen, my desktop on that machine. And you can see this is the creaky old Ubuntu server. There is nothing in our audit log. This is where we're going to store our audit file when we transfer it. It's running in background, so let's just bring that up. Let's reposition this way. We'll go to Tools. We'll select Transmit to Audit. Then we'll hit Start. We'll select our file, which is the audit log. I should have showed you this before, but so then what we'll do is, you can see it's sending the blocks of information. It builds the audit log. So let's take a look at the audit log real quick before we go back over to the server. Where is that? It's right there. And there's what was entered into the log, the 2 events. One was Terry and one was Jennifer, the IP address information, and the raw dump of the file. So now let's pop over to the USB server, or the audit server, and pop that up. And while this is coming up, you'll notice this was pretty ugly, and we did this on purpose. We just built a raw server collector. What we'll do is, if you hire LSS, we'll come in and put a user interface in front of this for you. Or our idea, which would actually be better, would be to, let me actually get that started, would be to integrate this into your existing audit platform. So as long as they expose the APIs that we need, we'll be happy to, make this, glue this into your existing audit platform. So again, this is a pretty old system. It takes a while to run, but here's the results, if this ever comes up. There you go. There's our spreadsheet that we sent to the audit organization. And that's the end of our presentation. I thank you for your time, and look forward to doing business with you.